They thought they could toy with you. They believed their lies, their setups, their whispers in the shadows would break you down. But look at them now, shaken, exposed, and scrambling to cover up the mess they created for themselves. The truth is cold and undeniable. When they came after you, they weren't just playing with a person, they were playing with fire. And fire always leaves a mark. Chosen ones, you know this feeling well. You've seen it in their eyes, the fake smiles, the empty bravado, the little victories they celebrated too early. They thought they had you cornered, but what they didn't realize is that every trap they set was built on sand. And now the storm has passed, the dust has cleared, and all that remains is silence. Not your silence, theirs. Because the universe doesn't let games like that slide. It waits, it watches, and when the time is right, it makes sure justice lands in ways no one can deny. That silence you feel now. It's not peace. It's the uneasy quiet that comes after a battle has already been won, even if your enemies are too stubborn to admit it. They can't laugh the way they used to. They can't celebrate the way they did. Their voices crack when they try to gossip, and their eyes shift when your name comes up. Because deep down, they know. They know they didn't just lose, they played themselves. Chosen ones, thank you for standing strong, for refusing to fold when everything in the world told you to. If this message is speaking to your spirit, hit that like button and subscribe, not just for you, but as a way to strengthen this collective voice. Every action you take here sends a ripple back to the universe, a signal that we see what's happening and we're standing together. And let me tell you, this story is just beginning. Because when the universe steps in to defend someone, it doesn't do it halfway. It makes a statement. Think about the people in history who were pushed, mocked, or underestimated. Their enemies thought they were breaking them down, when in reality they were building their legacy. Every insult became fuel, every betrayal became proof, and every attack only positioned them for the spotlight they didn't ask for, but absolutely deserved. That's what's happening with you right now. Picture it. They threw mud at your name, and now they're the ones covered in dirt. They tried to trip you, but ended up flat on their own faces. They wanted to dim your light, but ended up exposing how empty their own shadows were. This is what the universe does. It flips the script so cleanly, so undeniably, that even your enemies start to wonder if they were cursed the moment they touched you. Here's the irony they can't escape. The more they tried to destroy you, the more they revealed their true selves to everyone watching. People who once believed their lies are now questioning everything. Their credibility is cracked, their alliances are weak, and their reputation, it's falling apart piece by piece. Meanwhile, you're still standing. Not because you fought back with the same dirty tactics, but because you let the universe do what it does best, turn chaos into balance. I want you to remember this. The universe doesn't waste time defending just anyone. It steps in when someone carries a strength that can't be explained, a resilience that confuses people who rely on manipulation and shortcuts. That's why you're here, listening now. That's why everything in this message feels like it's pulling pages straight out of your life. Because you've lived it. You've felt the sting of betrayal. You've carried the weight of being misunderstood, and now you're seeing the payoff, justice that feels like poetry. Don't forget the moments when you cried alone, when you wondered if it was all worth it, when you thought no one saw the battles you were fighting. Those moments weren't wasted. They were recorded, stored, and answered. And the answer is unfolding now, in real time, as the very people who tried to bury you are finding themselves stuck in the holes they dug. Chosen ones, you don't need to gloat. You don't need to clap back. Just keep walking, because every step you take forward is another reminder that their power was an illusion from the start. They thought they had control, but all they ever had was borrowed time. And now that time is up. This is what it means when we say they ended up playing themselves. They didn't just lose against you, they lost against truth, against integrity, against the very fabric of the universe that doesn't bend for liars and manipulators. And if you've ever doubted it, look at where you stand today. You survived. They're stumbling. You rose. They sank. That's not coincidence, that's balance, that's justice, and that's exactly what happens when anyone dares to mess with a chosen one. So here's where it gets real. If you've ever felt the sting of betrayal, if you've ever watched people scheme against you only to see it all crumble back on them, then you already know this message is yours. Drop a comment below with 777 if you're ready to witness how the universe flips the script on those who dared to cross an earth angel. And don't just watch halfway, because the deeper we go, the clearer it will become why their downfall was never an accident. If you are truly one of the chosen, you'll feel that pull to stay locked in until the very end. And now, let's step right into it. Number 1. They never saw the universe walking beside you. When you strike at someone who walks with the universe, you don't just bruise their skin, you bruise your own destiny. They thought you were standing alone. They thought you were easy prey, isolated and unprotected. What they didn't realize was that every step you take is echoed by something far greater. The universe itself moves with you, guarding your path, shifting the ground beneath your enemy's feet. And this is where their biggest mistake lives. They believed they were fighting a single person, but in reality, they picked a battle against an entire cosmic force that never loses. Think about it. How many times have you wondered, why do people always seem to come for me but end up tripping over their own schemes? That's no accident. That's the invisible hand of balance correcting itself. When they targeted you, they were blind to the fact that the universe keeps score in ways their small minds could never calculate. They thought their gossip, betrayals, or sabotage would stick. Instead, every move ricocheted back at them like bullets fired in a mirrored room. The truth is, the chosen ones walk with a rare frequency, a vibration that unsettles people who operate in shadows. That vibration doesn't just make you different, it makes you untouchable in ways that leave enemies confused and enraged. They can't explain why their plans collapse overnight. They can't explain why their allies turn cold at the worst possible moment. To them, it looks like bad luck. To you, it's the universe whispering, "I told you I'd handle this." Let's be brutally honest here. When you interfere with someone carrying this kind of energy, you set yourself on fire without even realizing it. They thought they could dim your light, but the irony is, in trying to smother it, they only burned their own hands. They thought they could steal opportunities from you, yet the opportunities slipped through their fingers like water. Why? Because nothing that is yours can be taken when the universe has already stamped it with your name. This is the part that crushes them. They can't fight what they can't see. They can throw insults, spread lies, or try to block doors, but the universe simply builds a new door and slams the old one on their face. They watch as you keep rising, untouched, while they're left stuck in the mess of their own making. It's like they tried to push you into a storm, only to discover they were the ones standing in the rain without shelter. Ask yourself this: how many times have you noticed that after someone wronged you, things in their life suddenly started falling apart? Maybe their relationships collapsed, maybe their money dried up, maybe they lost the very things they bragged about. It wasn't coincidence, it was consequence. The echo of their actions came back with interest. They didn't just play you, they played themselves. And what's more, you didn't even have to fight them. That's the part that haunts them most. You didn't chase revenge, you didn't stoop to their level, and you didn't waste your energy on petty games. You stood firm, and the universe fought battles you didn't even know were happening. That's why they can't sleep at night. That's why they watch you with bitterness now. They can't admit it out loud, but deep down, they know they went to war with a force they could never win against. Let's not sugarcoat this. Your enemies are terrified. They won't show it, but they feel it. Every setback they face, every door that shuts on them, every time they fail to rise while you shine brighter. It gnaws at them. They ask themselves, why does everything backfire when it comes to this person? But the answer is simple: because you are not just walking alone. You are walking with the universe, and the universe never lets betrayal stand unchecked. The more they tried to tear you down, the more they cemented your position. The more they lied, the more truth rose to the surface. The more they attacked, the more protection surrounded you. That's why their stories never stick, why their victories never last, and why their energy keeps running dry while yours continues to renew. So let this sink in. Their fight wasn't against you, it was against a universal order that bends toward balance, and balance always wins. They thought they were clever, but cleverness has no weight against truth. They thought they had allies, but allies melt away when the universe exposes rot. They thought they had power, but power without purpose collapses like a house of cards. That's why today, chosen one, you stand while they stumble. You shine while they fade. They laughed when they plotted against you, but now it's their own reflection laughing back at them. They mocked you, but now the mirror mocks them louder. They thought you were weak, but the cruelest joke is that their downfall was sealed the moment they tried to touch what was never theirs to touch. And this is the ultimate reality they cannot escape. The universe walks with you, and against that, they never had a chance. Number 2. Their attacks only made you stronger than they ever imagined. Every stone they threw became the bricks you built your throne with. Enemies never understand the irony of their own actions until it's too late. They believed their words, their schemes, their betrayals would weaken you. They thought if they could get under your skin, if they could make you doubt yourself, if they could turn people against you, they would finally see you fall. But what they failed to realize is this: chosen ones are not built like everyone else. While most people crumble under constant pressure, you transform it into power. Their attacks don't drain you, they amplify you. Every blow aimed at your heart becomes the very fire that refines it. Think about it. How many times have you walked away from a betrayal or an insult only to feel sharper, wiser, more awake than you were before? It's not that the pain didn't cut deep, it did. But instead of letting it rot inside of you, you used it as fuel. That's what sets you apart. Most people let negativity bury them. You let it fertilize the soil for your growth. And this is what your enemies could never predict, that by trying to break you, they were actually building the strongest version of you. Pain is a forge, and every attack against you is just another swing of the hammer shaping unshakable steel. Imagine this: They tried to drown you in their lies, but instead you learned how to breathe underwater. They tried to set traps for you, but instead you learned how to navigate every path blindfolded. They wanted to dim your light, but in their effort to smother it, they only created sparks that lit up even brighter flames. That's the universal law they didn't account for. You can't extinguish someone who turns fire into oxygen. You might ask yourself, why do I always feel stronger after they try to tear me down? Why do their attacks seem to backfire every single time? The answer is simple, because you don't just experience pain, you transform it. Every betrayal became a teacher. Every insult became a mirror showing you what they feared most about you. Every attempt to silence you only revealed how powerful your voice actually is. That's the kind of energy that can't be destroyed. It only evolves. They thought they planted poison, but you turned it into medicine. Enemies underestimate the resilience of someone chosen. They confuse kindness with weakness, silence with surrender, compassion with fragility. But the reality is, when they push you into pain, they're pushing you into growth. The universe has wired you differently. You metabolize negativity into strength. It's like alchemy in motion. What was meant to destroy you becomes the very force that carries you higher. And that's why they can't stand it. They look at you now, stronger than before, and wonder how the same poison that should have killed you became your cure. Imagine this: a blade striking at glass will shatter it, but that same blade striking at steel only sharpens it. They treated you like fragile glass, thinking one strike would end it all. Instead, every blow only sharpened you into a weapon they could never control. And now, the sound of their own efforts echoes back, reminding them of their mistake. This is the irony they live with now. Every insult they threw is what taught you self-respect. Every betrayal forced you to set boundaries. Every attempt to embarrass you gave you the courage to stand taller. They thought they were subtracting from your life, but in reality, they multiplied your wisdom, your clarity, and your strength. That's the cruel twist. They were your unintentional trainers, preparing you for levels they could never reach themselves. The pressure meant to crush you became the wind beneath your wings. And don't think they don't notice. They see it. They see that you've become more resilient, more unshakable, more immune to the very games they used to win with. That terrifies them. They used to control you with little jabs, with whispers behind your back, with betrayals they thought you'd never recover from. But now, none of it lands the same. The sting is gone. The scars turned into strength, and they're left powerless because the very weapons they sharpened against you are useless now. So ask yourself this: how many times did they laugh thinking you were done, only to watch you rise again? How many times did they celebrate too soon, not realizing you were just becoming harder to break? That's not weakness. That's power disguised as survival. And now, survival has transformed into dominance. Imagine this: a storm hitting a tree. Most trees fall, but the ones that survive don't just survive, they grow deeper roots. Their branches may bend, but their foundation becomes unshakable. That's you. They threw storm after storm at you, expecting you to topple. Instead, your roots dug deeper, your branches spread wider, and now you stand taller than you ever did before. And the storm? It passed, leaving them drenched while you flourished in the aftermath. This is the lesson they'll never admit out loud. They made you. They forged the strength they now fear. Without their attacks, you wouldn't have become the unstoppable force you are today. They wanted to erase you, But all they did was write your name into stone. They wanted to silence you, but all they did was amplify your voice. They wanted to break you, but all they did was awaken the warrior that was always sleeping inside of you. And now, chosen one, the tables have turned. You don't fear them anymore, they fear you. Not because you chased revenge, but because your very existence is proof of their failure. They wanted to see you weak, yet you walk with a strength they'll never touch. They wanted to see you small, yet your presence fills every room. They wanted you silent, yet your story speaks louder than they ever could. Their attacks were supposed to end you, but instead they crowned you. That's the kind of victory the universe gives to those who stay true to themselves. Every tear you cried watered seeds of resilience. Every wound you carried became proof of your endurance. And now, as you stand stronger, wiser, and untouchable, they're left to deal with the cruelest realization of all. The fire they tried to burn you with became the very flame that lights your path. So let them regret it. Let them watch in silence as you thrive, because the truth is brutal and simple. Their attacks didn't destroy you, they built you. And that's the kind of strength that no enemy can ever undo. Number 3, they underestimated the shield of your higher energy. When you fight against someone who vibrates higher, your own shadows become the weapon that destroys you. The biggest mistake your enemies made was thinking they could drag you into the mud and keep you there. They didn't understand that you don't operate on their level. While they survive on jealousy, anger, and manipulation, you move with clarity, peace, and purpose. That difference is more than just personality. It's frequency. And when someone with low energy tries to attack someone vibrating higher, it never goes the way they think it will. Imagine throwing a rock at a wall of light. It doesn't pierce through. It bounces back harder, faster, leaving the one who threw it with bruised hands. That's what happens every time they send envy, lies, or hatred your way. Their energy simply cannot stick to you. It ricochets and smashes back into their own life. They call it bad luck, but you and I know the truth. They're choking on the poison they mixed for you. You might ask yourself, but why doesn't their negativity ruin me the way it ruins others? The answer is simple. You guard your energy. You don't let yourself stay in the chaos. You stay grounded, and because of that, the universe shields you by default. Their attacks never make it past the surface. Instead, they collapse under the weight of their own intentions. Darkness cannot swallow light. It can only exhaust itself trying. Think of it this way: negativity is like smoke. In a closed room, it suffocates, but in the open air of high vibration, it disperses, powerless. Your enemies tried to lock you in their smoke, but instead they found themselves coughing, choking, while you walked freely into the sunlight. That's the irony. They built traps for you, but stepped into them themselves. And this is the truth they'll never say out loud. The more they attacked, the weaker they became. The more you stayed aligned, the stronger you became. Now they sit restless, drained, confused, while you keep moving forward untouched. Because when you vibrate higher, you don't just survive their attacks. You turn their weapons into their own downfall. Their hate didn't break you, it broke them. Number 4, they mistook your forgiveness for an open door. Don't confuse my forgiveness with amnesia. I remember everything. I just refuse to let it poison me. One of the cruelest mistakes your enemies made was believing your ability to forgive was proof of weakness. They saw your calmness after betrayal, your silence after being wronged, and thought you were fragile. What they never realized is that forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. You let go of bitterness because carrying it would only weigh you down, but letting go never meant forgetting. No, you remember every red flag, every slip of the mask, every dagger they tried to hide in their smiles, and those memories became your armor. Imagine this. Someone throws dirt at you, hoping to stain your clothes. Instead, you brush it off and keep walking. The dirt doesn't disappear, you just refuse to carry it with you. That's what forgiveness looks like. You release the bitterness, but you never forget where it came from. You store it as wisdom, as a reminder not to walk down the same dark alley twice. You might wonder, but if I forgive them, am I supposed to let them back in? The answer is no. Forgiveness is not a hall pass. It doesn't mean access. It doesn't mean trust automatically returns. Forgiveness means you've decided not to let their poison live inside your chest. You've freed yourself while they remain trapped in the very bitterness they tried to give you. I can forgive you for stabbing me, but I'll never hand you the knife again. That's the part that destroys them. They expected your kindness to be a revolving door they could walk through endlessly, no matter how many times they betrayed it. But instead, they find themselves standing outside, pounding on a door that no longer opens. You moved forward lighter, wiser, and stronger while they stayed behind, angry that their manipulation no longer works. Imagine a book with pages torn out. You may forgive the person who ripped them, but the gaps remain as a reminder. You keep the book, you keep reading, but you'll never hand it back to the one who disrespected it. That's your life now. You forgive, you heal, but you never give them the chance to damage what they've already proven they don't value. Forgiveness freed you. Forgetting would have destroyed you. Number 5. Their schemes collapsed before they could even blink. When you move against someone the universe protects, your downfall doesn't come slowly, it comes all at once. Your enemies thought they had time. They thought their lies, their manipulation, and their fake alliances gave them the upper hand. They were confident, smug even, believing they had every angle covered. But here's the truth, they didn't factor in. The universe doesn't take weeks or years to correct an imbalance. Sometimes it snaps back so fast that the very ground under their feet crumbles before they can even understand what's happening. Imagine this. A thief carefully planning a break-in, memorizing every detail, rehearsing every move. On the night of the crime, the alarms go off before they've even stepped through the door. That's what it feels like when they come for you. They thought they were 3 steps ahead, but in reality, they were already caught in a trap set by their own intentions. The speed of justice is often invisible until it crashes down on the guilty. Think about how many times you've seen this play out in your own life. Someone plotted against you, talked behind your back, tried to sabotage your progress. And within days, sometimes hours, things started to fall apart for them. They lost their support. Their carefully built lies unraveled. The people they thought were allies turned cold. They couldn't explain it, but you could feel it. The balance had shifted. They asked themselves, how did everything slip away so fast? How did I go from control to chaos overnight? The answer is simple. They pulled a string tied to a web they didn't understand. They believed their games were clever, but their cleverness had an expiration date. And when that date came due, everything toppled like a house of cards in a single gust of wind. What they built on deceit was never strong enough to withstand truth. The beauty of it all is that you didn't need to lift a finger. You didn't fight fire with fire. You didn't chase revenge. You simply stood your ground while the universe made its move. They thought you'd be the one scrambling, But it's them who can't catch their breath now. They're the ones waking up to problems they never planned for, facing consequences they can't escape. Imagine a chess game where your opponent celebrates, believing they've cornered your king. But before their hand leaves the piece, the board flips, and every advantage they thought they had turns into a trap for themselves. That's how quickly the tables turned on them. And now, instead of victory, they sit stunned, holding the ruins of their own schemes. They thought they had time, but time was never on their side. Number 6. They never expected the universe to hand them their own poison back. Every dart they threw at you became the dagger they now bleed from. Your enemies never saw the mirror standing in front of you. They thought their gossip, lies, and sabotage would cut into your spirit. They believed their envy would weigh you down. But the reality is brutal. None of it reached you. Instead, it bounced back, sharper and heavier, landing directly on the very hands that threw it. That's the mirror effect of universal protection, and it's merciless. Imagine this. Someone spits venom into the wind, confident it will reach its target. But the wind changes direction, and suddenly they're choking on their own poison. That's what happens when they target someone the universe protects. The energy doesn't just return, it comes back magnified. What they meant to destroy you with now destroys their peace, their plans, and their sense of control. Negativity is a boomerang. The harder they throw it, the harder it hits when it returns. And here's the truth. They thought their actions were invisible. They assumed no one saw their schemes, no one knew their intentions. But the universe saw, and the universe doesn't let that energy vanish into thin air. It amplifies it, spins it back, and makes sure the sender receives the full weight of their own malice. They called it bad luck. You and I know better. It's justice, plain and simple. You might ask, but why don't I feel the same pain they tried to give me? Because you vibrate higher. You don't absorb poison, you repel it. You walk with a shield they can't comprehend, one that doesn't just block darkness, but reflects it. While they stumble, drained and restless, you keep moving forward, untouched. Your energy stays aligned, your spirit stays steady, and their downfall becomes a warning written across their own lives. What they cursed you with became their own curse. The cruelest part for them. You didn't have to lift a finger. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need to fight. You simply stayed in your light, and the mirror did the work for you. Now they sit with consequences they never planned for, haunted by the reflection of their own actions. And deep down, they regret ever crossing the line, because once the mirror effect begins, there's no escaping it. Number 7. They confused your calm for surrender, but it was power all along. Don't mistake my silence for softness. It's the warning before the storm you'll never survive. Your enemies looked at your gentleness and thought you were easy to manipulate. They saw your patience and believed it meant you'd tolerate anything. They mistook your quiet for weakness, your forgiveness for passivity, your calmness for fear. But what they never realized is that calm is not the absence of strength, it's the control of it. While they were loud, reckless, and desperate to be seen, you were steady, observant, and waiting for the right moment to show what real power looks like. Imagine a lake still on the surface, reflecting everything around it. To the untrained eye, it looks harmless, but underneath, currents run strong, deep, and impossible to fight against. That's you. They thought your outer calm meant emptiness, but it was depth. depth they could never navigate. And when you finally moved, when you finally walked away, they learned that still waters don't just run deep. They drown anyone foolish enough to underestimate them. Your silence screamed louder than their noise ever could. You might wonder, but why does silence hit them harder than any argument? Because silence strips away the games. It leaves them alone with their guilt, their failures, their reflection. They can't twist your words. They can't bait you into conflict. They can't control the narrative. All they're left with is the echo of what they did and the reality that you're not coming back. Enemies don't expect this. They expect endless chances, repeated forgiveness, and access to your energy whenever they choose. But once you reach your limit, that door slams shut for good. It's not revenge, and it's not bitterness. It's clarity. It's the decision to protect your peace at all costs. And that decision hits harder than any confrontation ever could. The day you chose silence was the day their power over you died. Now they sit in shock, trying to understand how they lost their grip. They replay every interaction, every chance you gave them, realizing too late that they squandered them all. What they thought was weakness revealed itself as your strongest weapon. Because peace, chosen deliberately, is unshakable. And the final lesson they'll carry is this: your calm was never surrender. It was the purest, fiercest form of strength. Number 8. Their jealousy became the trap that swallowed them whole. Envy is the fire they lit to burn you, but it only consumed their own house. Jealousy is one of the ugliest poisons a person can carry, and your enemies drank it daily, thinking it would kill you. They looked at your peace, your light, your sense of direction, and instead of being inspired, they became bitter. They couldn't stand that you carried yourself with a calm confidence they could never fake. They couldn't handle that. Even in silence, you drew attention without trying. And so they let envy rot their insides while convincing themselves that plotting against you would somehow fix their own emptiness. Imagine this: a moth circling a flame. At first it's drawn in by fascination, but the closer it gets, the more destructive its obsession becomes. Eventually, it burns itself because it couldn't respect the light it admired. That's exactly what jealousy does. They circled you, watched you, copied you, mocked you, but in the end, their envy burned them alive while you kept glowing untouched. Their obsession with dimming you only made your shine brighter. You might ask, but why did their jealousy hurt them more than me? Because jealousy doesn't touch the person it's aimed at. It corrodes the one who carries it. While they were busy gossiping, comparing, and scheming, you kept moving forward. You stayed focused, building, growing, evolving. And the more progress you made, the more their envy twisted into desperation. They set traps, but ended up walking straight into them. They whispered lies, but their credibility fell apart. They thought they were taking power from you, but in reality, they were bleeding out their own. Look at their lives now: the chaos, the restlessness, the constant dissatisfaction. That's not coincidence. That's the harvest of their envy. While they obsessed over you, they neglected themselves. While they tried to block your blessings, they blocked their own. And now, the emptiness they feel is the direct result of the jealousy they refuse to let go of. They tried to poison your name, but they drank every drop themselves. Meanwhile, you stand untouched. Your light never dimmed. Your purpose never faltered. And that's the harshest truth for them to swallow. All their envy did was speed up their own destruction. They didn't destroy you. They destroyed themselves. Number 9. Their projections exposed the shadows. they tried to hide. The flaws they accused you of were nothing more than the cracks in their own reflection. Insecurity is a quiet parasite, eating people from the inside out. And your enemies? They were drowning in it. The moment they saw your calm confidence, your inner steadiness, your refusal to be shaken, it lit a fire under every wound they'd been avoiding. They couldn't handle the contrast. Instead of facing their own emptiness, they tried to throw it at you, projecting their insecurities as if labeling you would somehow erase what they felt inside. Imagine this, someone looking into a spotless mirror. They don't like what they see, so instead of cleaning themselves up, they spit on the glass. Does it change their reflection? No. It only makes the mess more obvious. That's what projection is. They called you too perfect, fake, cold, out of touch, but every insult was just a confession of their own inadequacies. They weren't exposing you, they were exposing themselves. Every accusation they threw at you was an admission of what they feared in themselves. And here's the irony. They thought these labels would cut you down. They believed that if they could make others question you, it would level the playing field. But you weren't on their field to begin with. Their projections slid off you like water on glass because you were operating on a higher frequency that refused to absorb their poison. The only ones who bled were them. You might wonder, but why didn't their attacks crush me the way they intended? Because projection has no power unless you accept it. You never took their insecurities into your spirit. You saw them for what they were, desperate attempts to mask their own unhealed wounds. Meanwhile, they stayed stuck in the very pain they tried to hand you, trapped in cycles of self-sabotage they couldn't escape. In trying to wound you, they sliced themselves open. So now they live in the very shadow they cast, restless and bitter, while you keep moving forward untouched. That's the cruel twist of projection. It never changes the target. It only magnifies the truth of the one holding the mirror. And in the end, the only thing they really exposed was how broken they already were. Number 10. They mistook your patience for a lifetime pass. My patience is not your playground. Every chance I gave you was the rope you used to hang yourself. Your enemies believed your patience was endless. They mistook your silence for approval, your forgiveness for permission, your kindness for weakness. They thought they could keep crossing lines, testing boundaries, and you'd always be there to let them back in. But what they didn't realize is that patience has an expiration date. And when it runs out, it doesn't come back. Imagine this, a teacher quietly watching a student cheat on every exam. The student thinks they're getting away with it, but the teacher has been taking notes the entire time. When the day of reckoning comes, there are no warnings left, only consequences. That's how your patience works. You've always seen the manipulation, the lies, the disrespect, long before they were exposed. You gave them time, not because you didn't know, but because you wanted to see if they would change. They didn't, and now their access is gone forever. Forgiveness may open the door once, but disrespect bolts it shut for good. This is where the miscalculation breaks them. They thought you'd always be there, but when you finally withdraw, it's not with anger, it's with clarity. You don't chase, you don't explain, you don't slam the door. You simply evolve into a version of yourself they can't touch anymore. That gap becomes permanent. It's not revenge, it's ascension. And they are left standing in the ruins of their own entitlement, realizing too late that your patience wasn't weakness, it was restraint. You might ask yourself, why do they always act shocked when I finally walk away? Because they thought your patience meant dependency. They believed you needed them. But the truth is, you never did. The power was always yours. You gave them rope, and they used it to tangle themselves in knots they can't escape. By the time they realized patience wasn't permission, you were already out of reach. That's the unspoken strength they can't accept. You don't need revenge to win. Your silence, your evolution, your absence is punishment enough. They lost access to you, and in losing you, they lost the very stability, love, and presence they took for granted. And that's a loss they'll never recover from. Number 11. Their manipulation only exposed their fragile core. The strings they tried to pull snapped back and wrapped around their own necks. Manipulators always believe they're the smartest in the room. They think their whispers, half-truths, and staged performances will fool you into dancing to their tune. But when they set their sights on you, they miscalculated. They didn't realize you see through masks quicker than most people can even recognize a face. Every attempt at control, every fake gesture, every hidden motive, they all became spotlights, exposing not your weakness, but theirs. Imagine this: a magician performing a trick for an audience, proud of the illusion. But you're the one standing backstage, watching every wire, every trapdoor, every false move. That's what manipulation looks like to you. They thought they were impressing you, but you saw the strings before they even pulled them. And here's the truth: they weren't revealing your flaws, they were broadcasting their desperation. Manipulation is just insecurity dressed up in costume. You might wonder, but why does their manipulation fail every time? Because manipulation only works on those hungry for approval. You're not starving for validation. You don't need their crumbs of attention, their false promises, or their toxic games. So while they scramble to control you, their tactics fall flat. And in that failure, everyone else begins to notice the cracks in their armor. This is the cruel irony. The more they tried to play you, the more they exposed themselves. The lies revealed their fear of truth. The games revealed their lack of real power. The constant scheming revealed their emptiness. What they thought made them clever only made them transparent. And you didn't even need to argue or call them out. Your silence, your distance, your refusal to engage said everything. The greatest exposure is not confrontation, it's indifference. Now their weakness is on display. People who once believed their act begin to see through it. Their credibility fades, their reputation weakens, and all the while you walk away untouched, carrying none of the chaos they tried to drag you into. That's what terrifies them most. You didn't just survive their manipulation, you turned it into their own undoing. In the end, their strings weren't strong enough to control you. They were threads unraveling from their own fragile core, and once the mask slipped, there was no putting it back on. Number 12. They never understood the power of perfect timing. You can't delay what was destined. You can only destroy yourself trying. The cruelest mistake your enemies made was believing they could interrupt your path. They thought by blocking opportunities, spreading lies, or throwing obstacles in your way, they could slow you down or stop you completely. But what they never grasped is that your life isn't moving by accident, it's unfolding with precision. Every challenge, every delay, every so-called setback has been perfectly timed to sharpen you, prepare you, and elevate you. What looks like detours to others are simply stepping stones for you. And this timing doesn't bow to human schemes. Imagine this, a train running on tracks laid out long before anyone was born. The universe is the conductor, and your journey is right on schedule. Someone standing on the sidelines may try to throw rocks at the wheels, but all they do is break their own hands. The train never stops. That's your life. Every attempt to derail you has only proven useless, because the tracks you ride were never built by them. They were laid by forces far beyond their reach. When they tried to block you, they weren't stopping your destiny. They were standing in front of it. You might ask, but why do my enemies always seem to fall apart while I keep moving forward? Because in trying to resist your flow, they tangled themselves in knots. The energy they wasted on trying to slow you down was the very energy they needed for their own growth. That's why they stagnate. That's why they get frustrated, restless, and lost while you keep ascending. Their interference doesn't hold you back. It buries them in their own chaos. Look back at your story. How many times did a so-called setback end up being the exact push you needed to step into something greater? How many doors closed, only for a bigger one to open right after? That's not luck. That's timing. That's the universe showing you that nothing and no one has the power to stop what was written for you. Delays are not denials. They're preparations for something bigger. And this is the irony that eats your enemies alive. Every attack against you, every roadblock they thought would crush you, became part of your evolution. While they burned energy plotting against you, you gained wisdom. While they sank into frustration, you rose with clarity. The very moments they thought would end you only became the proof that you can't be stopped. In the end, that's the brutal truth they can't escape. Your life moves with perfect timing. And no matter what they try, no matter how hard they fight, they were never strong enough to rewrite the schedule of the universe. And so we come full circle. Every scheme, every attack, every whisper against you has only proven one thing. They were never fighting you. They were fighting the universe that walks with you. Their envy, their lies, their manipulation, all turned back on them, while you rose higher, stronger, untouchable. This is your story, chosen one. Proof that nothing formed against you can stand. If this message spoke to you, show your strength. Like this video, subscribe, drop the number 77 in the comments, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. The universe always protects its own.